What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Ranger Central. And today I kind of just wanted to, shoot the what and talk about just the Rangers with Kaapo Kakko being on the trade boards now, seeing him on David Pagnotta's trade board, and pretty interesting as well. Some little tidbit there on that, which we'll talk about. Want to talk about guys that the Rangers have interest in on the trade board, even though it looks like there's only one or two, but I'll double check that as I scroll through. And on top of that, we're going to talk about Jonathan Quick, looking like he's taken over the net for a bit. Talk about tonight's matchup against the Lightning. Kind of just do like a mini podcast here. I honestly have no format for this at all. I really don't. I don't know what I'm going to title this and everything. But we're just going to shoot it and just talk about things because there's a lot on my mind with this team. Because my head, it just doesn't stop spinning when it comes to sports. I'm thinking about recording a Mets video after this. So my head is just all over the place with my teams. I'm thinking about the Knicks and when the hell are they going to make a trade before the deadline kicks in. I'm thinking about how dysfunctional the Eagles are. And like I said, I'm thinking about mostly the Rangers and the Mets right now. Those are the main two on my mind because those are the two teams that I unfortunately care about the most, even though the other two teams have had more success recently. Granted, the Eagles this past year. I'm not going to rant and ramble, though, about the other teams. We're going to talk about the Rangers. Before we do, leave a like on the video if you do enjoy. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're Ranger fans, and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live next. So, like I said, David Pagnotta, he had his trade board go up earlier today, so I'm sorry that this is a little late in terms of just when this was up, but he put Kaapo Kakko 7th on the trade board, which is very interesting, and it says, well, first, apparently he spelled Kakko wrong, or Kaapo wrong. His first or last name, he spelled wrong, because the reply said, was it his first or last name? I'm just gonna double check yeah, it was his first name, that they spelled wrong at first, but regardless, Kaapo Kakko is 7th on the trade board for David Pagnotta, and I'm not really too sure with David Pagnotta how much I believe what he says, and it's not that I don't think he doesn't have sources. Obviously he does, because he has he's been right on things, but he's also been wrong on a lot of things as well. Not to discredit Pagnotta too much, but I'm gonna be honest, he was linking Kane to the Stars all this time, and he was linking guys like Tarasenko to the Islanders all this time. It never came to fruition. But we're going to talk about it here regardless. And he put Kakko 7th. There's no teams reportedly linked, which is very interesting, which kind of ruins where I could have a whole talking segment here about what an idea could look like. Because I'm just a little perplexed as to what this could be. So he mentions the Rangers are looking for upgrades and have been dangling Kakko as trade bait. This move may not result in a rental player coming back to Manhattan, as this could evolve into a larger quote-unquote hockey trade. But the Rangers are exploring, and Kakko's name is out there. So a hockey trade they think could happen, which is very interesting because that's the type of deal that we've been talking about ad nauseum that the Rangers should make if they are dealing Kakko. And I know people have different opinions on Kakko. Some view him as still a promising young player, which he is only 22. There could be something there. You never know. But I get the other side of the coin where there's frustration as well, and people think that he is just not good enough of a player. I sit somewhere in the middle where I am not completely opposed to the idea of trading Kakko, but I'm also not like they need to trade Kakko and they need to get this guy off of the team. I am somewhere in the middle where if the right deal comes along, then you move him. You can't say no at that point, but you don't just trade him for you don't go out and trade him for Tyler Johnson. You don't go out there and trade him for Adam Henrique. You don't go out there and trade him for just any rental. You don't go out and trade him for a rental. You get a guy that, like Pagnotta mentioned, is in a quote-unquote hockey trade. As to what that is, I don't know. As to who that is, I don't know. Is it Frank Vatrano, which I guess kind of segues into who's on the list as well. He also has Frank Vatrano 13th on the trade board, and the teams linked are Detroit, the Islanders, I would vomit, the Rangers, and then the Colorado Avalanche. So that's definitely an interesting list there. I don't know how he'd fit in terms of Detroit. I think Detroit's kind of loaded on the wing. I think they need more of like I know they do have a couple good centers there, but I still feel they need someone on the back end more and kind of a center. And then Colorado, too, they could use some help on the wings, but I still think they need more of a bona fide center as well. The Islanders and Rangers, though, are two teams where I could envision him fitting perfectly. As much as I hate the Islanders, as much as I hate to say it, he would fit so good with the Islanders. But Frank Vatrano, could Kakko be in a Frank Vatrano type deal? I don't know. but that wouldn't be, would that be a quote unquote hockey trade? I don't know. I don't know. Is it a scenario where they're going to trade him for another young player, which I am very, very anti getting Trevor Zegras, who's also on the trade board in the bubble list, but due to his injuries, he's not on the list. I'm very against that. I would not move Kakko if I'm the Rangers for Trevor Zegras. I think as crazy as it sounds because of the fact that Zegras has had more higher point seasons, I like the makeup of Kaapo Kakko's game in terms of playoff style hockey. I mean, we've seen it too. I like the makeup of his style of game for this team more so than Trevor Zegras. To me, Trevor Zegras adds to the problem and doesn't solve. It's just another guy that has all skill and everything and doesn't really bring what the Rangers need, which is more of one, a scoring threat, two, they need play driving, and three, they need a little more physicality in the lineup. And because you already have some of that skill with a guy like Artemi Panarin. Zibanejad, when he's on, I mean, you have some skill there in terms of his power play production, but at even strength, we've seen it before, but I just don't know where it is with the guy. And I just don't have faith with him as a number one center. I don't think Trevor Zegras is a guy that would surpass him as a number one center, though, either. So I don't think a trade like that would make sense for the Rangers. There's the whole idea of bringing back Pavel Buchnevich. If he gets moved, I would love that. To me, I would be on board with that. I could co-sign the idea of trading Kakko for Buchnevich. I know he has just this year and next year on the deal, but you know he fits in the organization. He does pretty much everything that you would want. He drives play. He could chip in goals. He plays well on both sides of the puck. He could kill penalties. He could be a power play threat. He would be pretty much everything this Ranger team needs, despite obviously the physicality. He doesn't really bring much of that. But I would be very open to the idea of bringing Pavel Buchnevich back in a quote-unquote hockey trade. I don't hate the idea of Frank Vatrano, but to me, you got to be getting Adam Henrique in the deal too. And I know I was talking about not moving Kakko for a rental, but it makes sense if you're getting Vatrano. Hit my mic there. Makes sense if you're getting Vatrano and Adam Henrique in a package type deal if you're moving Kakko. To me, that would make more sense, especially if you're not giving up a first round pick. Fine, like you get someone that fills out a top six role next year, and you get a center that helps out this year. And, you know, say it's the second round pick this year, a later round pick, like a fifth or something, and then another prospect. I'd be very on board with that. But the problem is Anaheim's probably going to want more of a guaranteed first round pick. And that's where I get worried because the Islanders are doing way better on their draft capital front. They have their first and second for this year and next year. Plus they have thirds. The Rangers are very thin on draft capital. They don't have a second the next 2 years after this one. They don't have their third this year and next year. They are missing a fourth in 2025, but they got one from Dallas. They're missing their seventh this year. So emptying draft capital is not the way, and I see why Kakko's in rumors potentially to be moved because of the fact that if they want to avoid giving up a first because of they want to have the spotlight in the sphere, which is just ridiculous. But on top of that, for me, it's more just that besides that, I just don't think it makes sense to move the first this year. But regardless, especially with the market, like I don't think anyone's worth a first on the market right now. But if they do have to move a first round pick this year, like that's the market. That's the market. And I don't know, like to me, it just makes more sense to move potentially Kakko than a first round pick just because of how thin the draft capital is. And I know that might be a hot take to some, but again, to me, it's the right deal. To me, it's only for the right deal. You do not trade Kakko for a rental. I want to emphasize that. You don't trade him for Adam Henrique, who, by the way, is third on the board, and also the Rangers are mentioned, which Adam Henrique has a lot of suitors, it looks like, with the reportedly linked teams. It's looking like Colorado, Nashville, Carolina, Winnipeg, New Jersey. Vomit if he went back to New Jersey and just killed the Rangers again. The Rangers and then Edmonton are there. So a lot of interesting suitors. And then you go down a spot. Fourth is Anthony Duclair, who's linked to Edmonton, Colorado, Vegas, and the Rangers. I'm not on the Anthony Duclair train at all. I'm not moved by Duclair. And it's no knock because I understand that the analytics are going to suck when he's in San Jose. But to me, he doesn't solve really what the Rangers need at all. He's too much of a passenger with the guys that he plays with. And if he's not playing with Artemi Panarin, then I don't think it would work here. To me, you'd have to then move Lafreniere up on that first line to play with Kreider and Zibanejad, which I don't know how that would go. And then Anthony Duclair would have to play next to Trocheck and Panarin for that to even potentially work. And will it work? I don't know. But if it's cheap and it's the only option, then I'm not necessarily totally opposed to it. But to me, I'm still like, I'm not even in favor of giving up like a third for Anthony Duclair. I'm sorry. I'm against getting Anthony Duclair, even if he's that cheap, just because of the fact that I just don't see where the benefit is like, sure, maybe he's an upgrade over Blake Wheeler, but it's not enough to me to where it's going to move the needle, in my opinion. But that's just me personally. You guys could have your opinion on that. And then, so in terms of other guys, there's not really anyone else. I'm very disappointed that I don't see them next to Tanev, don't see them next to Hanifin, Chychrun. I wish their name was under that. Barabanov, I think, would be a better ad for the Rangers too if they're looking in the San Jose market. I would like Barabanov way more. I think he'd fit this team better for the bottom six. They're not interested in Lyubushkin, which kind of shocks me. Well, assuming this is true, because the Rangers are tight-lipped at the end of the day, and most of what we've seen in terms of the Rangers connections came from different sources and not really from Pagnotta himself. So again, we know the Rangers are more tight-lipped. Vetrano, like I said, he's linked. Sean Walker, I wish the Rangers were linked to, but if the market's truly a first-round pick for Sean Walker, I'm kind of fine with the Rangers not giving that up unless they have intentions of extending him, because I just don't see, like, I love Sean Walker. I think he could be a very, very good ad for this blue line. I don't think he's going to necessarily be a difference maker on the blue line, unfortunately, but that's just my opinion, and I'm skipping past the goalies. Tarasenko, maybe the Rangers have interest there. We've heard a little bit of rumblings with that potentially, but he doesn't have anyone listed there, so that's interesting. Savard, Toronto, and Tampa, that doesn't surprise me. Pat Maroon, Edmonton, and Tampa, that doesn't surprise me because Edmonton's going to want to play him with Perry. Tampa's going to want to bring him back. Makes sense there. Edmonton, doesn't look like there's interest there. Olofsson, please stay away there. Barry, stay away there. Adam Boquist on the market's interesting. A young defenseman. That I could maybe see the Rangers. I'm not really too familiar in terms of Boquist with the season he's having and just in general his play recently. He's on IR right now, but in 20 games played, 7 points. I mean, he's been a solid young defenseman. Maybe there's something there, but the Rangers aren't next to him at all, so that doesn't really matter. And then there's Berggren, and then there's Broberg, who the Rangers just aren't even interested either. And then the bubble list has D'Angelo. I don't think the Rangers are going to bring him back. Jordan Eberle, I am very much on the Jordan Eberle train if the Rangers were to go in that direction, but that might cost a first-round pick, so I don't know. And then you got Morgan Frost. I don't know if the Rangers are going to make an in-division trade there. Same goes for Gensel, Torrey Krug, Lawton, please stay away there. Mantha, stay away there, and then Zegras as well, like I mentioned. So, yeah, a couple of interesting names, but the main thing was really the whole Kakko debacle where, I don't know, like, I'm very curious to see what a Kakko deal would look like if they end up making that happen. I'm very curious to see what that would look like, but that's really all I got in terms of that front. We'll talk about briefly the fact that Jonathan Quick getting back-to-back starts, which is very interesting. Apparently Laviolette and Benoit Allaire, which I'm never going to doubt Benoit Allaire. That's just not me. Apparently they had a plan thought out about given this little time period, which is a very long time period, actually, I shouldn't say little, to give Igor kind of a reset and let it be Quick's net. And I know people are very against it. To me, I think this makes perfect sense. I don't see why there's a reason to be against it, especially when Laviolette's going to the podium still and saying, this is our guy. We're going to rock with Igor still, but we just want a plan for a little bit of a reset to get Igor going. I don't see anything wrong with that. If anything, I think this makes sense. Look at what happened in Toronto with Ilya Samsonov, right? The guy goes down to the AHL, doesn't play there, but works on some things with the coaches and gets kind of a mental reset, and then look at what he's been lately. He's been in goaltender duels with guys like Ilya Sorokin. He's been in goaltender duels with Connor Hellebuck. Like, that level of goaltending has happened from Ilya Samsonov. Imagine what could happen with Igor, which we know at the top of his game is one of the better goalies in the league. And if they could get him to just be even a passable goaltender, not even necessarily elite, but just passable from this reset, I would call it a success. And with the way Quick's playing, why not ride the hot hand anyway? Like, I don't see a problem with healthy competition. And I'm not saying that Igor is never going to get the net back and it's Jonathan Quick's net for the rest of the season. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, for right now, ride with Quick, and then go ahead and go back to Igor once you start to see more of the consistency, and let him have a healthy competition here with Jonathan Quick. To me, it just makes a lot more sense to go about things in that direction personally. But I don't know. You guys could give me your thoughts on that. And then in terms of the last thing that I wanted to mention, because there was a little bit of a tidbit from the last game with the Rangers and the Colorado Avalanche, how after the game, Johnny Lazarus, who follow me on Twitter, appreciate that. Johnny Lazarus, he asked after the game a little bit about the Nathan MacKinnon play, and they were talking about it on the Daily Faceoff live stream this morning, and I kind of didn't think about the quote in the perspective that, you know, Frank Saravelli was talking about at all. And he kind of makes a good point that, is it really the best quote with Peter Laviolette taking accountability for the poor play that happened there when they broke through that 1-3-1 in the neutral zone, Nathan MacKinnon, that is, to score that goal, which I get it. I like accountability more than the next guy. You guys know that. I beat the drum. I talk about it at nauseum. You guys are probably sick of it. But with Laviolette taking accountability there, I kind of agree with what Frank Saravelli's saying, that it's kind of letting the players off the hook a little bit, just a bit too. Like, I'm not saying he has to throw them under the bus entirely, but, and if he's saying something behind closed doors, then that's different. We will never know if he's saying something different behind closed doors. This could just all be a thing that he's saying to the media. I'm not going to speculate there. But if he's truly taking accountability and not saying anything to the players behind closed doors about them needing to be better, I don't like that personally as a message. I think you got to be more accountable, at least behind closed doors, in terms of just telling these guys, yo, like, I know myself, I could teach better, but you guys have to execute better. I've seen you guys do it before. Early in October, you guys were killing that 1-3-1. You guys got to execute. And that's another reason I don't want them off with a free pass. They were executing it in October. Why are they not now? And then Laviolette made the matchup switch up with the Zibanejad line out there against the MacKinnon line, and all of a sudden things shift. They look better. So I don't know. As long as something's said behind closed doors, I don't have a problem. But again, I'm not in that room. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know. I'm just an idiot that makes YouTube videos. And hey, I got no room to speculate after I made some horrible speculations this offseason. And I could admit to that and admit that it was a terrible mistake on my part in terms of some of the speculations that I've made prior. And that I've learned my lesson heavily from that. And, you know, I'll take accountability there myself with stuff like that. But I don't know. I just think that it kind of rubs me the wrong way a bit, that quote, just kind of from that perspective. But again, we don't know what's happening behind closed doors. That could just be a media trained answer from Laviolette, because he's a pro. He's been in this league for way too long. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, we'll find out what happens. Tonight they play Tampa, who gets Sergachev and Chernak back, because of course they're ready to go when they play the Rangers at the Garden. But yeah, we'll see. Tyler Mott gonna play. Anytime goal scorer should be a lock, but we will see what happens. So let me know all of your thoughts on what we talked about in the comment section down below. Would love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live next, and I'll see you guys in the next one.